What is going on, guys? We're back again with another tier list video for Pokemon TCG Pocket. This time we're going to be going through the water type Pokemon for Pokemon TCG Pocket. And we have quite a lot of water Pokemon, actually, compared to all of the other cards that they released. You know, similar in traditional Pokemon TCG fashion, there's always a lot of water. There's always a whole bunch of options for that. So if you like playing water decks, you are very lucky because you'll have a lot to choose from. So let's get right into it. So the first card that's gonna get binned in here is Dugong. You know, a usual case scenario. You know, stage 1 Pokemon, decent HP, too much energy to attack, too much retreat cost. It's gonna get immediately tossed the minute it gets in a battle, and you're never gonna get the thing charged up consistently. So that's why it's gonna be in the bin tier. Next up, we're gonna get Cloyster in here. 3 energy to get an attack off for 70 damage is not enough damage. It has a nice ability to reduce damage by 10, but with 120 HP, it's not going to make too much of a difference. It's got a high retreat cost. Once you're in the active, you're probably not pulling it out, and you're not really going to be using this very much, I think. And then one after that would be Kingler. Kingler has 3 energy for a coin flip that you have to get 2 heads to do, like, I think it's 160 damage. It's very, very inconsistent. If you hit it, it's amazing, but it's still not even really worth the 3 energy cost, in my opinion. Because, by the time you get lucky enough to hit 2 heads in a row, you probably have already lost the game. I would most likely not use them. Moving on from there, we have Seadra. Really cool attack, takes too much energy to do it, and the fighting type Pokemon that we'll get into later have a much better version of this. This is, you have to evolve into it. It's still only at 70 HP, 3 energy to just snipe. It's not great. Seaking after that. It is interesting, but it's just too inconsistent. There's a lot of coin flips here. 1 energy, 80 damage on a coin flip if you hit heads. If you get tails, nothing happens at all. It's just inconsistent. Then we have Poliwrath. Poliwrath is a stage 2, so you have to evolve to 2 steps to get to it. It does okay damage at 80. It's not high enough to justify the 3 energy cost. The 2 retreat cost is already kind of rough. Has good HP, and it has an interesting ability that if somebody else attacks you, they'll take 20 damage. So you could make some funny decks with it, but I don't necessarily think they'd be very great. But hey, don't let me stop you. If you think it's a fun card, then send it, run it, and tell me how you do in the comments. Next up we have Vaporeon. Vaporeon is, it's a stage 1, so you have to evolve from an Eevee. You have 130 HP, which is alright, but 3 energy for 60 is not worth it. 30 HP heal is not enough. We went over this again before with Venusaur. In that case, he had higher HP. It's just it's not worth the investment. Next, we have Articuno, a basic Pokemon, 100 HP, good bulk, but the 3 energy cost is a bit rough. Coin flip for paralysis is not bad. It's a cool secondary effect on a 60 damage attack, but it's just too expensive to send consistently. Finally, we have Swanna, and Swanna is just outright terrible. 3 energy for 70, 90 HP, have to evolve into it. It's just not great. And that kind of wraps up our Bennett tier. So for the mid tiers, we're going to start off with Lapras. Lapras is very okay. It takes 1 energy to hit for 20, and then if you have 3 water energy on this Pokemon, you can hit for a total of 90. Now, I think that 90 for 3 is not the worst, which is why it's in the average. It's very mid. It's not amazing or stand out, but it's okay. I don't think it's outright terrible. I don't think it's great, and that's exactly why it's sitting there in the mid tier. Now we have what I would consider to be the water version of Scyther, which is Pyukumuku. Same thing, hit and run basically. You're going to put 30 on this guy, swing in the first turn of the game, hit for 30, and then you're probably going to use that water energy to retreat the next turn and do something better once you start evolving. It's alright. I think it's exactly the same tier as Scyther. So, we're just going to put it and keep it right there. Next up, I'm going to put Golduck on here. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how did Golduck end up on here? And I think it's mostly because of combination with Psyduck. Psyduck is really good, basic. So, Psyduck essentially allows you to hit for 1 energy, do 10 damage, and then your opponent can't use any supporters. So that stops any of the draw engines, stops any additional, gusting. It's pretty useful. And then Golduck does okay damage for 2 energy, 2 energy for 70. It's not bad. The HP is a little bit low in Golduck. Now, I don't think this is an amazing card, but I think it's about mid, and that's why it's right here. Next up on the list, we're going to go for Tentacruel. Tentacruel is interesting. It has an attack for 2 energy. That's called Poison Tentacle. It does 50 damage, which is okay, and does poison as well. So you're going to be looking at 60 damage essentially once you get this hit off. And then it kind of poisons their active, so then they're in a situation where do they want to retreat, get the poison off their Pokemon? Do they keep it in to keep taking damage? I think it's all right. It's again, it's not enough damage for it to really be any higher than mid, but I think it's very okay, and the energy is very reasonable to be able to get that off. Next up, I'm going to put Blastoise on the bench here. So Blastoise, why is it in mid? It takes 3 energy to do 80. Now, again, if you're looking at just the raw damage, you could say, well, I can do Lapras for the same amount of damage, or I could do maybe Golduck and do a little bit less for less energy cost. But it does have the additional effect that you can get more water energy on there. So if you get an extra 2 water energy attached to this Pokemon, you're doing an additional 60. So essentially, your damage output's going to be 140. Pretty strong, but that's a heavy energy investment to do that. I think it's cool. I don't think it's consistent enough with the energy acceleration we have as of right now, which is why it's in mid tier. And I would probably put it somewhere, maybe it's about in the middle here. And then the next one we have up here is, where is Starmie? Regular Starmie. This guy is very okay. You know, it has free retreat. It has an attack for 1 energy for 40, not very high. But that free retreat is what's keeping it in mid. There's a lot of situations that if you get gusted up and you have no way to get out of there, then it's a bit tough. But with this, at least you can attack for 40, you can retreat, and you can still keep that energy on them. So if you want to attack for 40 again later and bring them up in the active, you're good to do that. I think it's all right. So that's why it's native in mid. And then the final, oh no, we got 2 more here. Sorry, we got Bruxish. I probably pronounced that wrong. 2 energy, 10 damage. If the opponent has any damage on it, it does an additional 60. It's very okay. You know, 2 energy for potential 70 is it's all right, but it's on a basic, you know, so that helps out a lot. So you don't have to evolve into it like Golduck. And it's got 1 retreat cost, so it's not too hard to get it out of there. I think it's all right. So yeah, it's be mid. Next up, we have Articuno EX. Articuno EX is cool. It does, 2 for 40, which is not very great. But then the second attack is 80, and then does 10 to each of the opponent's bench Pokemon. So you have a little bit of a small snipe there. I think it's all right. I think the energy cost is too much for what you get out of it, but it's okay. That's why it's in mid. And now the actual final Pokemon for the mid tier is going to be Gyarados. Gyarados is very, again, it's a high investment, decent damage with a good secondary effect. But you have that 4 retreat cost, which is very expensive, and you have to evolve into it. And the evolution is honestly not the worst part here. It's not even much of a factor, but the fact that you have that 4 retreat cost means that if you put this guy on the bench and you're still charging him up and he gets gusted up early, and you can't attack with him, you're sitting duck and you're just taking hits. You're a sponge, essentially, at that point. So I don't think he's any higher than mid. But if you do get him charged up, he does do pretty well. So that's why I think he's going to be at the top of mid tier. And that is all the mid tier Pokemon. And let's move on to the solid tier. Moving on to the Pokemon that I think are solid, let's start off with the bottom of solid, which I think is Frostmoth. Frostmoth is cool. It does, it's a stage 1 Pokemon, so you evolve into it. Does 40 damage for 2 energy, and has the nice secondary effect that your opponent's active Pokemon is not asleep. Now, normally this is not very great, but the fact that, again, there are no switch cards currently available in Pokemon TCG Pocket. So if your opponent misses the coin flip, they're stuck in the active and they can't do anything to you for a whole turn. So you just got 40 damage for free. Now, later on, if somebody has like a stage 2, or like if they have an EX Pokemon, maybe that 40 damage is not worth it. So in that situation, maybe you want to try to play around a little bit. But putting them to sleep can be very useful, and it can be a nice way to get a cheeky win when you didn't deserve to win that game off a coin flip. It's not too bad. So I'm gonna say it's gonna be the bottom solid tier, teetering on mid, but bottom of solid. And then after that, I'm going to put. It's tough here. I'm gonna put Amistar though. Amistar is a difficult one to get out because it's a fossil Pokemon, so you're going to be going off of a fossil and evolving 2 times into Amistar. Attack for 3 energy does 70 damage, so it's not very much damage, but it does have the nice secondary effect that your opponent's active Pokemon cannot attack next turn. So, they have to switch out. So that means if they, for example, are attacking with Gyarados, Gyarados has the 4 energy on it. They swing, and then, well, you hit them with the attack, and then they can't swing at you. And then they have to either choose to burn all 4 of those energy to get the Gyarados out of the active, bring something else in that may not have energy, or they can just not attack you that turn and try to figure out how to essentially wait to see if they can get maybe a supporter card to swap out your Amistar or some other way around it maybe. Either way, I think it's good enough based off the very limited card pool we have right now in the game that Amistar could be solid. Then next up, I'm going to put Starmie in here. So Starmie EX. Starmie EX is pretty good, mostly because it has that free retreat. Free retreat to attack for 2 energy for 90 is pretty dang solid. I think that it's a really simple card, you know. It's not too much else to it. It just gives good damage and you can retreat. So if you get some damage on you, you can head to the back and then you can bring something else up. It's really really decent. I would be tempted to put it near the top. But let's check out what else we got here. We have Greninja. Greninja is pretty dang good. It's got that ability for, what is it? You can once per turn, you can put 20 damage on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And that 20 damage can mean the difference between a win or a loss in a lot of situations. So, or it can help you push you past the numbers that you were just missing out on. The problem with Greninja is that you have to evolve 2 stages into it, so you're not getting it until later in the game. And you have to search it out, and it's not the easiest thing right now in the game to get to stage 2. So it's not super, super consistent. And then have an attack 2 for 60, which is not too high, but you're using it for the ability anyway. I think it's a decent supporter. Basically, a decent supporting Pokemon that you have on your back line that you wouldn't use as a main attacker, but can definitely help out a team. I think something like Starmie EX and Greninja could be very, very good together potentially, where you get a little bit additional damage that you don't get from that 90 damage from Starmie, covered up from the Greninja. And then finally, we're going to put down Blastoise EX. Now, Blastoise EX, 3 energy for 100 damage, and if you have 2 additional water energies onto him, you do an additional 60 more damage, so you'll get 160 damage. That is really high. That'll KO most Pokemon in the game. I would like to put him at the top. I am tempted to put Starmie higher. I'm tempted to put Greninja higher. But, this is the one type of Pokemon in the game currently that has any supporter that can attach energy consistently to all of the Pokemon. So it is very possible to get Blastoise charged up. So that's why I think it's fair to put him at the top there. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, maybe statistically we can figure out more data later on down the line. Maybe after some games we can square out. If you think Blastoise shouldn't be here, please tell me, because if you want to put something else out of all these water Pokemon up there, maybe I can be convinced. I'm not fully sold. But yeah, this is the tier list for what I got for you today. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys disagree with my opinions, please let me know in the comments. If you agree, leave a like, and maybe I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.